The President, please be seated. The court is now back in session. We would like to hand over to co-lawyers for the civil parties to proceed putting questions to the witness. You will have 15 minutes for this.
Good morning, Mr. President. Good morning, Your Honors. Good morning to all parties and all those present. And to you, Mr. Witness, good morning. Thank you for appearing before this tribunal. I understand that it is difficult to testify in a trial such as this one. However, it requires much courage to help ascertain the truth, and I therefore thank you for that. Yesterday, you stated that you were born in 1962, and therefore you were 23 years of age in 1975. At the time, were there many other young people who were enlisted in the army at the time?
Response. There were a lot of people from different provinces and districts.
And were very young people, such as yourself, at the time you were enlisted?
Response. There were young people and adults. There were very few young people as young as I was at that time who were enlisted. We were forced to join the movement. We were not allowed to stay with our parents.
Merci. Thank you. And as a very young soldier, aged between 20 and 23, were you ever, on occasion, forced to obey the orders of your superiors who obliged you to undertake difficult tasks with which you were not at all in agreement?
Response. We could not resist the order. We were in the area where we had to make a decision we didn't like. Whether we like it or not, we had to join the army.
Est-ce que vous avez dû... And did you have to complete tasks that you did not agree with, but that you were forced to do because you had no choice but to obey?
Response. Yes, it is correct. We had to follow the order and we had to be armed. It was an obligation and it was compulsory that we had no other choice. And we, young soldiers, would then be put to work together with other senior soldiers.
Est-ce que parfois
And from time to time, was it very difficult for you? Was it very difficult on your conscience and based on your values and beliefs when you were told to do things and forced to do things?
Response. As I stated earlier, I did not like the tax, but I had to oblige myself to join them, and we were monitored by people at different levels, and we would be no safe if we stayed home.
vous avez dit que
You stated that you were demobilized shortly after April 1975. Is one of the reasons because you found the tasks you had to undertake in the army to be too difficult?
Response. We were told that we would be taken to Mong district of Battambang, and I got very tired already because I had been involved in this for too long, and I fed up with this, so I asked that I be allowed to be reunited with my family. The President's Council, can you advise the Chamber as to which particular relevant fact in case file 002/1 do you believe that your line of questioning is relevant before we can proceed further?
These questions are relevant because they pertain to context. They also concern the obligation to obey on the part of soldiers in function to their age. And these questions are important in order to establish the foundation for my follow-up questions, if I may continue.
The President Council, you are now advised to put direct and related questions to the fact at issue, because the Chamber believes that the previous questions were not very relevant, and please make the most of the time allocated and add that to your time for questioning this witness. And the questions you put to the witness were too broad and less relevant.
Very well, Mr. President. I was leading up to the subsequent line of questions, which I do believe are relevant. This series of questions concerns Dolpo Shrey. I know you are not particularly inclined to talk about this. It is a difficult subject, as it is for many. You stated, however, this morning that you were not at Dolpo Shrey, and that the day that you left your village, you were arrested, and you saw trucks leave one at a time. and the trucks were coming back empty. And when the trucks were coming back empty, 20 minutes later, there would be truckloads of truck leaving. How often did you see this convoy of trucks leave?
Maybe.
The President, you may proceed, Counsel, and Mr. Witness, please hold on.
Thanks, Mr. President. Maybe I didn't understand it correctly or something went wrong in translation, but I heard Counsel say that the witness said that he had been arrested.
No, I asked how long he had stayed at the area and how often he had witnessed the comings and goings of the trucks. How long he had stayed, corrects the interpreter. Can you please answer, Mr. Witness?
Response. During yesterday and even during today's session, I didn't see the trucks because Phum Po Fort was not closer to my area, and there was checkpoint where people would be checked before they could be allowed to get into the premises. And at that time, when I was stopped at the checkpoint, I noted that there were trucks, and there were trucks load of people, and one truck would leave at that place one at a time. I did not know whether the trucks would be leaving the area for Tul Pochri, but that was the only road leading to that Tul Pochri, so I presumed the trucks could have been leaving for Tul Pochri.
Thank you. I heard this morning that you were talking about the trucks. I shall perhaps ask you one final question. Mr. Witness, you have taken an oath. Can you please assure the chamber that you were not forced by your superiors to attend the executions that were taking place at Tul Po Chre?
Response. I took the oath already that I would only tell the truth, nothing but the truth. I did not receive orders to kill anyone at that time. If I were to receive such order and I told I did not, then I would be cursed by all spirits. But I am telling the truth, and I believe that this truth-telling will bring me peace and prosperity.
I have no further questions, Mr. Witness. Thank you, Mr. President.
The President, thank you, Counsel. Next, we would like to hand over to Counsel for Mr. Nguyen Chia to put questions to the witness. You may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. President. Good morning, Mr. Witness. Mr. Witness, in the days that you were a member of the revolutionary forces, did you ever encounter in combat with soldiers from the Lon Nol regime?
Response. Yes, I did. We engaged in some battlefields in the vicinity of Posat province. As the combatant in the platoon, a small group of soldiers, we were located in our confined area, and my unit was a secondary military unit as opposed to the other main units in the military.
Would you be able to expand some more on the battles that your unit has been fighting with the Lon Nol soldiers?
Response. I cannot remember the detail of this. We engaged in the battles, but small battles. When we fought these soldiers, when we were on foot, and we did not engage in the battles when we were in the tanks. So we were fighting in small group on those occasions. And I just don't remember the frequency or how many times we engaged in such battles.
Were there ever any members of your group arrested by Lon Nol soldiers? And if yes, do you know what happened to them?
Response. Since the day I started working at my unit, I have had no knowledge of whether any of our colleagues been arrested by others or the Lon Nol soldiers. So we only engaged in a small unit, and we were tasked with treating the wounded, and sometimes we would be asked to help the other soldiers, but I do not remember knowing any of us being arrested.
In the years prior to 1975, was your unit ever close to the fort where the regiment of Commander Pell was situated, at 12 Boat Tray?
Response. I was not very close. I was about 15 kilometers from that vicinity, because I was in Swai Don Kao district, and the fort controlled by Mr. Pearl was in between my district and Mong district. So the closest proximity that I was to this location was 5 to 6 kilometers, and I would never be located closer than that.
Do you know if prior to 1975 this fort which was run by Commander Pell, was ever attacked by revolutionary forces?
Response. Yes, very often we had to engage in helping the soldiers who had to attack this place, the fort, because every time when order was rendered, the troops had to attack the vicinity, then we had to support them by providing food supply. But the casualties were more on the Khmer Rouge side than on the Lon Nol soldiers' side.
Would you be able to give an estimate of how many attacks were carried out on that fort?
Response. I cannot estimate as to how many attacks were carried out, because as a combatant, a low-ranking combatant, I had no access to the inventory or the records of attacks that could be taking place at that time and in Sector 7. So in a nutshell, I just cannot tell you how many the attacks could have been, and that's all I can tell. I don't even know whether one attack was heavier than the other.
But in those years prior to 17 April 1975, was it only one attack, maybe two or three, or were there dozens of attacks on that fort in Tulpoche?
Response. Prior to April 1975, during the course of 1 year, I can say that there were 1 or 2 attacks were hurt, and I think there were less frequent attacks in 1974, the year leading to 1975, than the previous years.
Are you able to tell how many Khmer Rouge soldiers were wounded after the attack, or how many Khmer Rouge soldiers were killed during the course of those attacks?
Response. Po Village Fort and Tulpoche Fort were attacked one after another. For example, troops would attack from different sides at different time, and I would only be there to help collect the wounded, and some would be transferred to other locations, and for that reason I cannot really give you the number of soldiers. I know that soldiers were killed, but later on these gaps were filled by new recruits, and I noted that some of them spoke with dialect, so I could say that these people, the new recruits, could have been people from different parts of the country.
But are you able to make an estimate of how many wounded or killed there were in those various attacks before 17 April 1975?
Response: I cannot give you this number. Sometimes during an attack 4 or 5 people got wounded, and I, who helped the wounded, were not allowed to be close to the place where these wounded soldiers were treated by the medics, because I was only in charge of transporting the wounded to the place where they could access to medical services.
Would you be able to tell the chamber how many Lon Nol soldiers were staying at those two forts respectively? How many in the fort in Tu Brochet and how many in the Po fort?
Response: I don't know. My unit was in the jungle, and there was it was believed that there was a battalion of troops at that place. So I can say that in a platoon there would be certain number of soldiers, so this number of soldiers could be multiplied from one unit. For example, from platoon to company, the numbers could be triple multiplied by 3, as I understood, and that was a regiment, or rather a battalion of troops at Tu Brochet on the Lon Nol side.
Just to be clear, if you say a battalion was stationed at Fort Tu Brochet, how many soldiers were in fact staying at that fort?
Response: I do not know the exact number, because I had to be able to access to the list, the staffing table of the soldiers recruited at that place, to know the exact number of them. But I'm afraid this matter is of confidential nature, and I had no reason to know how many soldiers would be deployed to that area, and I don't know.
If I were to say that at the fort at Tu Brochet there were about 200 soldiers from the Lon Nol regime station, would that be a wild guess or would that be accurate?
based my assessment on the size of the fort, and I asked people over there as well. They show me the fort, but inside the fort there were not only the soldiers, there were also civilians as well. So my guess could have been around that numbers, or maybe well above this number or lower than that number. It was only my guess.
And what about the fort, the village fort at Po? How many soldiers and or civilians were situated there? Have you heard that?
The military fort attached to Po village was bigger than that in Tuolpo Chrai, because that fort comprised of civilian as well as the militia and soldiers. I actually at that time did not bother to ask a question as to how many soldiers were there, because at that time some people say they were soldiers and others said they were militia, and I did not actually ask them exactly who they were and how many of them were there. So I could not tell the court as to how many soldiers were there.
If I understand correctly, the commander of the fort in Tuolpo Chrai was the commander Pell. Would you be able to tell what his reputation was, if at all, in 1975? How was he known by you and by your direct colleagues in the platoon?
Again, Pell was the commander of the two forts, the one in Po village and the other one in Tuolpo Chrai. In terms of his reputation, on the day he met me, I did not, know that people had any, bad impression on him. Actually, he was someone whom the villager thought that he was an ordinary commander, so they did not have any particular notice on him.
But my question to you was whether you or the members in your platoon at that time knew anything about his reputation as a military commander.
Are you referring to the time when, the time before the peace period, or the period after the peace period? Because prior to the peace period, the people hated each other, and following the peace period, people were advised not to take revenge against one another. So at that time, everyone did not wear different military uniforms. We shook hands and we talked to each other normally. At that time, he was an approachable person. He walked along with us. We did not even bother to ask each other about the previous background and work. We work alongside with each other at that time. That was being directed for us to interact with one another during the peacetime.
I understand what you're saying. My questions to you were relevant to the years when you were an active combatant up leading until 17 April 1975. But I heard you use the word hating and the instruction not to seek revenge. Would you be able to elaborate on the word hating? Was there any hate going on in respect of Commander Pell?
Well, I cannot really enlighten you on this issue, but there was instruction at that time that we must not seek any revenge against the previous commander in the military. We had to seek peace among ourselves because our country was at peace now. So if we were curious about who was doing what in the past, then there would be a lot of problem. So at that time, we live with each other peacefully. During one given period at that time, we did not have any problem with each other. We knew that there was execution at Tulpuchray. That was the only location where people were executed. And in 1976, there was some investigation into the execution of people over there, whether or not they die of diseases or any other causes.
Do you remember from where the specific instruction came not to seek revenge against Lon Nol soldiers?
It was in accordance with the order I received from the military rank. At that time, they issue an order for the official at the village and commune level to tighten solidarity in order to rebuild the country, and they had to join force in order to cultivate rice and other crops. We were given cows and oxes, and we had to work together in order to develop our respective villages and communes.
Do you remember why such an order was given, not to seek revenge? Was a specific reason given to the troops not to revenge the Lon Nol soldiers?
Well, as I said earlier, it was the plan. I did not know what was the underlying reason, but in the past they did not even want to, look into each other's face. They could not tolerate with one another when they encounter. But then after that, we were seeking peace. We did not want to kill each other. So as the civilians in the village at that time, we agree with this order because we thought that it was appropriate. I did not even bother to question the reason behind it because I was only ordinary citizen. I was not the commune chief. I was not the village chief. I was only an ordinary citizen. I left the military and then I was working as farmer, so I did not question the reason behind this. I only know that it was appropriate to live in peace with each other at that time. So I did not actually receive the direct order, neither did I attend the meeting at that time to receive such an instruction. But we were told from one person to another that we had to live in peace. I did not understand the procedure or the rationale behind this decision or order.
Now, Mr. Witness, in your answer just now, you used the words, they couldn't look in each other's eyes. What did you mean when you said that?
Well, at that time there was a clear segregation. Those who were armed were on one side, and the other side were in the forest. And at that time, people who were in the forest were the owner of the land, so they consider each other as enemy. So at that time, people were armed, and then if we did not attack the other side, we would be attacked. So at that time, we fled our village, and we resided in the jungle, and in order to resist against the other opponent force.
Just to make sure that I understand correctly, was it the villagers and Lon Nol soldiers who couldn't look each other in the eye, or did I understand that wrongly?
The soldiers from the two sides, respective soldiers were given instruction that whenever they encounter, they had to attack. Otherwise, if we did not attack them, they would in return attack us. So at that time, whenever we encounter, armed clashes would erupt.
Let me rephrase my question, Mr. Witness. What can you say, what can you tell us about the relation in those years, 73, 74, 75, between the villagers and the Lon Nol soldiers from the fort in Tuol Proche and the fort in Po?
To the best of my recollection, from 1972 to 1973 until the 17th of April 1975, the civilian and Lon Nol soldier were separated. They stay afar from each other. I actually did not know pretty much on the arrangement on the military side. I stayed with the civilian, and at that time there was the delineating line between the soldiers and civilians. We had to stay in a separate location at that time.
Mr. Witness, the International Co-Prosecutor this morning showed you an excerpt from a video in which a local villager was telling about things that he had seen. And one of the things that he had seen was the head of Commander Pell and another person called Ru, the head which was decapitated. That's a very difficult word for me. But the head were on each side of the fort. Have you ever heard from anybody whether that actually happened, or any other testimony to that effect?
I just heard about it just now. When I was there in my village, it was far from that location. But I never heard at that time, I never heard of such a thing. I only knew that he was dead, but in relation to whether or not he was decapitated and his head was mounted on a pole or so, I did not know. I have already taken an oath. I only tell the truth, and I can tell the court that I have not heard of it.
Mr. Witness, that same villager in that video was speaking about a person called Ru. When you heard that name, did that ring a bell with you?
No, I did not know the man by the name of Run. I did not know whether or not you refer to Run who were residing in my village or a different Run. But Run, I did not know whether or not you were referring to Run who was subordinate to Pearl. But I did not know him. He must have been somebody in the authority or in the military. I did not know about this man, so I cannot tell the court.
Why are you saying that he must have been a military person?
Because I did not know whether Run was a member of the army or not. I only knew Pearl, who was the commander. But as for Run, I could not say precisely whether or not he was a member of the army or not. So I did not know about this person. I did not know whether or not he was a soldier.
Mr. Witness, would it help you if I were to ask the President leave to have that same excerpt from the video played again so that you could listen to what exactly the villager is saying about this person called Ru or Ron?
Yes, I am fine with it. The President. Well, Mr. The Council, your request is granted. AV assistant is instructed now to play the video clip number 186.6R as per the request by the defense team for Mr. Nguyen Chie. Whenever
và cái lạp rụi ơiខ្ញុំmuaនឹងពុំដូចគេក្រាកោស៊ូចឹងណាពូហនពុំហៅប៉ោកទៅព្រោះជាងអើកទៅ
They trong dây phi tờ bông cái trap yang mấy giờ ở dương màu thử say mùi.
Kì thà ông mà rơ tưa. Cái ông mà rơ tưa nữa nè. Tưa cái mong đô nó gạo rơ vô tờ vinh tờ ngô. Cái ông rơ vô tờ vinh. Rơ vô tờ thơ tưa hay nào vinh tố. Cô năm kia rơ tố. Khmau chứ nó tờ khmau những làn vụ viên mà chu cọp tố.
Thầy mong mà đo tờ bông khơi nhà mấy mơ tịch phiếp đi rộng này mà.
Khơi khmau nhưng nè. Khơi khmau nhưng khơi tờ phụ viên nó tên nâng tố. Cái cắt ba cắt in tố. Rồi chừng ai cũng tố.
Thầy mới cái cắt đặt tà na hay bong tờ chua mơ mấy mới bong đi rượp đi sẽ cam nó phim.
No. Cắt đã nó mùi. Nó ta mất thuy là bong kìa nè. Cắt đặt thì kháng này mũi, càng bông mũi, càng chân mùi.
Chua ấy hay cái đọt đặt dạng mấy mơ bong chuyện đi.
Chua lục bèl, lục rôn. Nên là pi nè nên thế. Cắt.
Lục pel nó khả na, lục run nó khả na hay cái đặt.
Lục run nó càng chơi, lục bèl nó bông. Mấy cái ham mà đói chôl. Tân kia nó mấy cái đói chôl. Nó bà cô bà cô dân chân ru cái đầu chôl đam song. Phong còn. Lọ. Một mệnh bay một tờ bông.
Cái bong mọi tờ run để bòi khơi mục. Bòi chua chẳng ngay nà để.
Không tôi căn lên như là tôi vòng bay là bong lên nhưng tập bong cái đầu là pin chân rong là bong á nè cái đặt chân run nè ba khmoi chứ nó tập lại chân run lên nó họ ao kẹt ấy nó khơi cái cát cái co kẹt chân nam sạ trung kẹt đó đôi lục pel nhưng nhập cái tan này hình đó cái vô tận đau ba lại nâu hồi chừng đó miên tôi ấy.
Mr. Witness, you have seen the villagers speak again explicitly about Mr. Room. Does the name of Mr. Room now ring a bell with you?
No, it does not. I did not hear about that. Of course, people in my village had seen corpses, but then only a few days later we went to see, but unfortunately the site was already buried. I do not know who Run was. I only knew Pal. Pal was the commander in that area. If I knew, I would tell the court. I would not hesitate to tell the court accordingly, but I cannot recall and I did not know this man. I know that there were many soldiers in the rank and I did not know who was who. I only knew Pal.
Mr. Witness, in that same footage, you hear the villager speak about the houses of soldiers and that those houses had to be searched. Have you heard anything about houses of Lon Nol soldiers being searched and property being possibly seized?
The fort that I mentioned was not a, properly structured fort. Actually, it comprised of small huts inside. So actually, it was not a very well solid building.
Let me rephrase my question, Mr. Witness. The villager that you can see in the footage seems to imply that soldiers who might have been executed, that their houses had to be searched by whom, this may be unclear, but their houses had to be searched. Do you know anything about that?
No, I do not know. When I returned from Posat, I went straight to my village. I did not actually follow up with what was unfolding at that time. I did not know the situation of the soldiers. But when I came to see the corpses, I only saw the burial site. I did not see the corpses, and I only saw the houses which had been burned down. That's what I saw when I came to see it.
Which houses were burned down?
According to what I witnessed, the houses were around the fort, and those houses accommodated the Commando forces. It was adjacent to the fort, and I saw the burned houses, and those houses were not properly structured. They were made of small wooden pillars, and some of the pillars were made from bamboo. So it was not a concrete or big fort at that time. It was the fort in the remote area.
Mr. President, I'm moving to another subject. This might be a good time to have our break.
The President. Thank you, Counsel, and thank you, witness. The time is now appropriate for lunch adjournment. The Chamber will adjourn now and resume at 1:30 this afternoon. Court officer is instructed to facilitate the break for the witness and have him back in the courtroom before 1:30 this afternoon. Security guards are instructed to bring Mr. Kisampon to the holding cell downstairs and have him back in this courtroom before 1:30. The court is adjourned.
សូមក្រោកឈរ